The punishment is swift and devastating for Austin's Lance Armstrong.
The man who won cycling's Tour de France 7 times today lost all of those titles. This comes after Armstrong refused to let an arbitration panel hear accusations that he used performance-enhancing drugs. In response, the U.S. Anti-Doping Association, or USADA, stripped him of his titles. The agency also put Armstrong under a lifetime competition ban. The news is having a big effect here in Austin, where Lance Armstrong is a major personal and political player. We have team coverage this evening looking at the case against Armstrong now, plus the impact it will have on events and landmarks tied to Armstrong here in Austin. We start with a closer look at the charges against Lance Armstrong.
KXAN Sports Director Roger Wallace joins us with more on what the people making these accusations are saying today.
U.S. Anti-Doping Agency wasted little time announcing they would strip Armstrong of his Tour de France titles after Armstrong announced last night that he would no longer fight the doping charges. USADA say they had former teammates and colleagues prepared to testify that Armstrong was involved in doping throughout his 7 Tour de France wins, which began in 1999. Armstrong said he was dropping the fight because at some point enough is enough and he doesn't feel like it was a fair fight and he had no chance, and because of the toll it was taking on his family. Armstrong maintains his innocence, while USADA Chief Travis Tigert appeared on the Dan Patrick Show this morning and was not surprised at Armstrong's decision to pass on the arbitration process.
The better move now for him is to walk away on these terms and, you know, hold on to a soundbite with no basis about an unfair process or a witch hunt or a personal vendetta and all these things that you've heard, because I think it would have been much tougher had all of that evidence over a 2-week, 3-week period of time under oath been presented on the stand.
When asked about Armstrong's record of never failing a drug test throughout his career, Tigert explained that the drug test system is flawed and there's no testing for blood transfusions, one thing that Armstrong's accused of. The International Cycling Union said it will wait for USADA to explain why Armstrong should lose his Tour de France titles before commenting on the case. But Tigert says that the union is bound to recognize their decision and impose it, and have no choice but to strip Armstrong of the titles under the code. Leslie?
Thanks, Roger. The developments in Armstrong's case are causing some concern here in Austin, of course. Lance Armstrong has deep ties to this area. It's home to his Cancer Foundation, events like the Live Strong Challenge and Live Strong Marathon. The punishment has people wondering about the future of his foundation here and his legacy in Austin. David Scott talked to the foundation leaders today and joins us now live. David.
We're at the western end of the 6-mile-long Lance Armstrong Bikeway, named in his honor. Armstrong, of course, famous for his record 7 straight Tour de France titles, but he's also famous for having beaten cancer in his personal life and then creating the Live Strong Foundation to help other cancer survivors. The question tonight, how does all this affect his reputation and the future of Live Strong?
Armstrong is having none of it.
Lance Armstrong founded Live Strong after he beat cancer. 2 years before his first victory in France, he's helped raise $500 million for the cause, and they stand with him 100%.
A lot of people forget that Lance founded the Lance Armstrong Foundation before he ever won a Tour de France. So before the world knew who Lance Armstrong was, he had already committed himself to serving survivors throughout Texas, throughout the U.S., and throughout the world.
Lance has been one of Austin's favorite sons. When word got out of his stripped glory, there was disappointment on the trail.
I think doping, obviously, it's not ethical, but I think the water's a little bit murky. It's hard to say that it seems like it's pretty widespread in the field.
Will it hurt his reputation?
Yes, absolutely it will, because at least half the people are going to believe it.
I don't agree with it. I think they've tried to persecute that guy for too long and let it go. He's a great cyclist.
Armstrong has been behind fundraisers across the country, including here, the Live Strong Austin Marathon in February and the Run for the Roses in October. They will presumably go on. But will donations to Live Strong take a hit?
We might see a temporary effect, but long term, within the cancer community, Lance Armstrong is a hero.
Mayor Lee Leffenwell said today, Lance Armstrong is a friend of mine. Lance Armstrong is a friend of Austin, and I will ride bikes with him anytime. I spoke to some folks at City Hall today, and they said there's been no consideration, no discussion about taking Lance's name off this bikeway, and they said we don't talk about hypotheticals. David Scott, KXAN News.
Thank you, David. Armstrong is not going into hiding. He's planning to compete this weekend in a mountain bike race in Aspen, Colorado, then a marathon the next day. Neither event is sanctioned by USADA. He's also getting some support from his biggest sponsor, Nike. A statement from that company said, quote, Lance has stated his innocence and has been unwavering on this position. Nike plans to continue to support Lance and the Lance Armstrong Foundation, a foundation that Lance created to serve cancer survivors.
And online now, you can find more about Lance Armstrong's career and the accusations against him. We have a link on our front page to a photo gallery. It shows some of the high points of Lance's career, as well as key moments in the drug case against him. You can find that information online right now at KXAN.com.